Now when you think of the greatest fighters from the 90s, you'll no doubt think of the likes of Mike Tyson, Roy Jones Jr., Pernell Whitaker, and many more. However, there is one man who definitely goes under the radar, none other than Mark Johnson. And no doubt because he was in the lower weight divisions, he doesn't get the attention he probably deserves. Affectionately, he was known by his nickname Too Sharp, and Johnson's journey from a gritty amateur circuit to become a 3-time world champion in 2 weight divisions, with multiple defences along the way, proved it with skill, refinement, and a mastery of the sweet science. His moniker of Too Sharp wasn't just a catchy phrase, it was a testament to his razor-sharp precision he brought into the ring. At one point, he reached 5th in the Ring Magazine's pound for pound rankings in 1998, if that doesn't prove to you how good this guy was. Especially when you consider there was fighters like Oscar De La Hoya, Roy Jones Jr., Evander Holyfield, Floyd Mayweather on this list at the time. But what made Mark Too Sharp Johnson truly stand out? Was it his flashy approach, quick combinations, strategic prowess, or perhaps a mix of both? Today I'm going to dissect some of his fights, exploring the highs and lows of his career, uncovering the nuances that made him a boxing icon in the lower weight divisions. So, on that note, let's take a look at Too Sharp Johnson's flyweight brilliance.
Can he continue his winning ways? He hasn't lost in 11 years. He's on deck. Too Sharp is coming up.
Now the first point I want to make about Mark Johnson was in fact he was a fantastic southpaw. He was fast and skilled. He wasn't just like any other boxer, he had a strategic genius to him. And his use of the southpaw stance provided a unique advantage, making it tricky for opponents to read and counter his movements, especially as he had a very unorthodox style at times, which allowed him to control the pace and dictate the angles he was fighting from. As a southpaw, Johnson showcased a remarkable range of styles, proving he wasn't just a one-trick pony. At times he could employ a pressure swarmer style, relentlessly advancing on his opponents with precise combinations, wearing them down with a barrage of punches.
Not only is he a classy boxer, but he will do this. He'll stand right there flat-footed and slug it out with you, and the crowd loves every moment of it.
On the flip side, he could seamlessly transition into a flashy defensive boxer, slipping and sliding with finesse, making opponents miss and paying the price with quick counters. And adding to his bag of tricks, Johnson wasn't afraid to throw a curveball by occasionally switching to the orthodox stance. This unexpected move served a dual purpose. It disrupted his opponent's rhythm while providing Johnson with an alternative angle to unleash his arsenal of punches. And it was a testament to his adaptability and psychological game he played inside the ring. And one of Johnson's key tactics as a southpaw was his mastery in gaining the outside position against opponents, getting his foot on the outside position against orthodox fighters, helping to control the range and the distance of the fight, putting him in the perfect line to land his rear straight hand, often doubling up his jab before going to the body. While this would also present him opportunities to attack up top and limiting their offensive options. This strategic manoeuvre allowed him to dictate the pace of the fight and set up attacks with surgical precision.
Perhaps his best round. Johnson comes back and hits him with the left.
He also often favoured moving to his left, the opposite of what you'd expect for a southpaw. In most cases, it was in fact to close off the ring and force his opponents to move back to their left. This was a calculated choice though, and this lateral movement served a dual purpose. First, it helped set up the stage for his deadly right hook, a weapon that could change the course of a bout in an instant.
In the first 4 rounds. That's a right hook. He goes down on a perfect right hook. It's closing down on round number 1. Johnson trying to cut the ring off. Not a big-time hitter, but is a decided underdog. Hand on Granillo that had some authority behind it. There's another right hand and another right.
While it would also direct it straight into his left hand.
Okay, and Johnson landing at a 45% clip, which is very good. For him, actually.
Look at that right hand. Unbelievable. Johnson showing another good, solid right hand.
His punch are landing very, very crisp. Very crisp.
Angelo coming off a 51-year layoff. A little right hand.
Johnson.
Good right hook. He may have been hurt. Arthur Johnson might have been hurt by that right hand. Look at Mark go to work. Those are the combinations that are so devastating. And down goes Arthur Johnson here in round 1.
And another element that truly set his southpaw stance apart was his formidable jab he employed. Instead of using it as a probing tool, Johnson unleashed a very powerful sharp jab that lived up to his nickname. The jab wasn't a mere measurement of distance, it was a weapon in itself, and Johnson strategically threw sharp jabs to the body and mixing it up with uppercuts and varied angled hooks and level changes to give it that finesse. And this simply kept opponents off balance or pushed them back on the back foot. His jab also wasn't just an offensive tool, it played a dynamic part in his defensive repertoire, helping him control the space between him and his opponent, making it truly one of the best southpaw jabs I've ever seen. Overall, as a southpaw, it's crazy the amount of fighters I see within his style as he changed it up so often. Mark truly had it all. One of the things that really stood out for me with Johnson was his love of working on the inside and his ability to seamlessly interchange shots to the body and head, creating openings that left his opponents bewildered at times. This inside game wasn't just about power, but about precision and creating opportunities for his effective combinations. Adding to his arsenal was the surprising amount of power he packed despite competing in the lower weight classes. The secret? It was all about leverage, as Johnson took advantage of the natural transfer of weight after each punch, often throwing wide looping uppercuts to the head and to the body, which would help create openings.
Teeing off on him. Orozco is in big trouble, and Carlos Padilla stops. To be sure, and taking an awful beating, and yet he continues to fight back.
And as I mentioned before, he looked to direct punches into each other. After throwing a left straight, he'd follow up with a right hook, and vice versa. This strategic approach allowed him to generate more power than expected, catching many opponents off guard. But it didn't stop there. Johnson's brilliance extended to his inside game with a unique twist. In the midst of close quarters combat, he'd smoothly shift his stance to orthodox, a tactical move that set the stage for his deadly right hand to the body.
Johnson, 6-7 punches. Almost all of them unanswered. Good left hand by Johnson, then a right.
Not only did he utilise switch stances, Johnson was also a master of strategic head movement, where he had a tendency to lean his head on the left shoulder of his opponent, a crafty move that created openings for his next devastating attack, quite often chopping right hands. And this in itself just added another layer of complexity to fighting him on the inside, often leaving opponents no choice but to try and cover up or move out the way. While him just consistently changing the location of his body punches, Johnson's right hand finding its mark, digging into the body of his opponent with surgical precision, often left his opponents rolling around the ground.
Finish. Oh, what an uppercut, but it was blocked partially. Oh, Bolaño with a delayed reaction down for the second time, and he spits out the mouthpiece.
Then if he comes in here, that also can be a good facet for him, being that he's a southpaw.
Yeah, he knows how to use that southpaw stance. He's a southpaw. He slips over here. Now, what do you think I'm going to hit you with?
A right hook is coming.
Bang. He throws the opposite punch. He's a real smart guy, that Mark Johnson.
Mark Johnson, very slick and very sharp.
The 28-year-old Johnson has the ability to stay calm and looks to find openings. Here he makes his opponent lean forward with the left hand, then he goes over to the right to find an open body shot. Johnson's speed and elusiveness makes opponents over-anxious and desperate with their punches. Here he makes the fighter load up on the right hand, then slips it. He then lands his own left uppercut.
While him just consistently changing the location of his body punches was another hallmark of Johnson's inside brilliance. His ability to fluidly transition from head to body, mixing up the rhythm and placement of his punches, showcased his level of technical mastery in this position, and in my opinion he's up there with the likes of Duran in these positions. Overall, his inside game wasn't just about trading blows, but there was a strategic genius to him, creating openings. Johnson's style became a signature and potential an Achilles heel as he moved up in weight, and it showcased not only his confidence but his willingness to take risks, but in most cases it paid off as he was just too sharp. While Mark was also celebrated for his offensive prowess, his defensive skills were equally mesmerising, as he possessed a chameleon-like ability to adapt and draw inspiration from the defensive arsenals of various boxing legends at times. For example, channeling the spirit of Joe Frazier or Henry Armstrong, implementing swift bobbing and weaving techniques, slipping effortlessly under opponents' punches. And this bob and weave style wasn't just a defensive maneuver, it seamlessly transitioned into his offensive onslaught, turning defense into a launch pad for powerful counters.
Great body shot by Mark Johnson.
While when he tended to fight southpaws, he incorporated the shoulder roll, and this defensive posture allowed him to deflect incoming shots while setting up those backhand counters. And the shoulder roll became a trademark move of his, and a testament to Too Sharp's defensive acumen when in the pocket while looking to counter and dodge his opponent's punches.
Blander's a pretty good ring technician. He just, there's the hook. There it is.
While in other moments he was reminiscent of Ali or another southpaw in Pernell Whitaker, and he would often keep opponents at bay with the jab, and it served both as a measuring stick and defensive tool. And the jab wasn't just about offense, it was a way to control distance, disrupt timing, and keep his adversaries guessing. And much like Ali or even Pernell Whitaker, Johnson's jab became a key component of his defensive strategy at times. While he could quite as easily float like a butterfly on the outside, and his footwork and subtle in and out movements and a knack for maintaining the perfect distance kept opponents frustrated and unable to find their own rhythm, and could very rarely push him back to the ropes, as he would quickly duck and pivot to get back into the centre of the ring and control the fight. The ability to stay elusive on the outside at times showcased how versatile Too Sharp was, and seamlessly blended offense and defense. However, Johnson's defensive brilliance extended beyond mimicry. His subtle slips, head movement and linear footwork became a defensive dance at times. A slip here, a step there, it was poetry in motion, and opponents found it challenging to land clean shots. He had a knack for making opponents miss and leaving them swinging at air. Who doesn't like a little bit of showboating every now and again?
Here in round number 12, making Montiel miss and miss badly.
Now let's talk about some of the chinks in his armour, and Johnson's flashy style, while entertaining, could sometimes be a double-edged sword. He occasionally got caught up in the excitement of his showmanship, getting caught changing guard, or even just wanting to fight on the inside. Opponents with a keen eye exploited these moments, often landing counter shots that clearly stunned Johnson at times.
You talk about Mark Johnson doing some very good things to bodywork, that's a plus, but sometimes it may not be a plus for him, right?
Yeah, sometimes, you go to something too much, it can backfire on you. He likes to go over, Mark Johnson, I'm the southpaw. He likes to go over outside the shoulder, that's smart. And he brings his shoulder back, good body punches, but sometimes he gets a little reckless, he's a little wide, and when he's wide, he could get caught in between that punch. But despite his enormous talent, Johnson has a real fighter's temperament, and because of that attitude, he can sometimes lose concentration, and forgetting distance, he'll walk straight into punches. As he ever to still keep his cool about him. With a nice counterpunch, right uppercut. He caught Johnson. We talked about it earlier. Johnson throws from too wide, and he got nailed.
And here is Lasierva, really.
The right hand that Marquez knocked him down with is the right hand that he's been concentrating on all night. I mean, you can see he's been totally focusing a lot on that straight, short right hand. And he did something very beautiful. He shot a jab to the body and then shot the right hand on the chin.
However, within the ebb and flow of his flashy style, Johnson exhibited a mastery of feints that added a layer of complexity to his approach. Things such as foot feints and constant subtle changes to his guard. While his unpredictable flashy defensive movement also played a part in these feints. These feints weren't just for show, they were also calculated effort to deceive his opponents and create openings in their defense.
And
off a 51-year layoff. A little right hand.
Foot feints in particular were a hallmark of Johnson's ringcraft, and these movements were designed to bait opponents into committing to certain actions. For example, Johnson would often target the body, and quite often as the fight would go on, a quick feint to the body would drop the guard for him to attack up top.
I think eventually Johnson's going to try that right hand on the side of the right hook is what he's going to try to land after that sooner or later.
CompuBox calculation in the first 4 rounds. That's a right hook. He goes down on a perfect right hook. And that's exactly what you said he was going to do, Emmanuel.
Yeah.
Rhodes is beating the definition.
Yep. If you notice, Johnson is coming in. He's coming in with the body motion as if he's going to throw a straight left to the body, which he's been throwing all night. But instead, he shot the right hand on the chin.
His art of deception played a crucial role in his ability to control the pace and dictate the terms of his engagement. The flashiness and guard changes, while at times exposed vulnerabilities, were also integral to Johnson's overall strategy. The unpredictability kept opponents on their toes and uncertain on what was coming next, as Too Sharp danced on the firing line between flair and risk, adding an element of suspense for every bout you watched.
Watch this guy and not like him, Alex. If you like boxing, you got to like Mark Johnson. He's a skilled, talented, tough, well-conditioned, hard-working fighter.
In summary, Mark Too Sharp Johnson's boxing style was a masterclass in technical finesse, strategic brilliance and adaptability. As a southpaw, he wielded his stance like a weapon, seamlessly transitioning between various styles to confound his opponents and control the tempo of the fight. His inside game was marked by precise interchange shots, taking advantage of the natural leverage of his punches to generate surprising power in the lower weight classes. Johnson's defensive prowess was also equally impressive, drawing inspiration from many legends, incorporating bobbing and weaving, shoulder rolls and elusive footwork into his repertoire. His jab, instead of being a probing tool, was a powerful weapon in its own right, used to disrupt opponents' rhythm and inflict damage with sharp, well-placed strikes. Despite facing some setbacks and challenges towards the tail end of his career, Johnson's resilience and determination shone through, and he cemented his legacy by getting into the Boxing Hall of Fame in 2012. In my opinion overall, he was just a true ring craftsman, and for me has earned himself as one of boxing's all-time greats, as he truly was one of the sharpest fighters we've ever seen. And it's just a shame he doesn't get recognised like other past champions from the 90s. And I highly recommend you go back and study some of his fights. I'd love to hear your thoughts on Mark Johnson. Was there a particular part of his style that you liked? I'd love to know. This has been Jamie from Boxing Life. Thank you so much for watching, and as always guys, I'll see you in the next one.